Dyson, Blanchflower, White, creating space.
Danny Blanchflower. Calm in the storm, thought in the chaos, elegance in the fight, and glory in the silence. He didn't scream instructions, he didn't beg for applause, he didn't point to the badge. He passed, and the game unfolded. No orders, no noise, just rhythm, just intelligence, just command. They called him the captain, but he never shouted. He simply moved, and the team moved with him. He gave the game his poise, his vision, his philosophy. And the game? It kept chasing power. It forgot how to think. But Blanchflower remained sacred to those who still remember what leadership looked like before it sold its soul. Because quiet doesn't mean weak, and stillness isn't surrender, not when you turned football into meaning. Danny Blanchflower, the mind who didn't play the game, he shaped it. Subscribe if you still believe football should honor the minds who led without raising their voice. Danny Blanchflower wasn't born into spotlight, he was born into Belfast. February 10th, 1926. Smoke in the air, steel underfoot. Silence in the home, but fire in the boy. He flew with the RAF during the war, long before he ever passed a football under pressure. Trained as a navigator, he charted courses through enemy skies maps in hand, future in mind. From RAF Derby to scattered bases across Britain, he learned precision and patience above the clouds. Discipline at altitude. Calm under pressure learned in the skies, before the pitch. Stationed across Britain before returning to Belfast, Blanchflower's war years shaped his precision and presence long before they shaped his football. In 1946, he signed for Glentoran. No agent, no big fee, just boots, will, and intelligence. He played like he was 2 seconds ahead of time. Every pass had thought. Every pause had purpose. In April 1949, he crossed the water to Barnsley. A test of English football's rhythm. 2 years, solid, smart, undeniable. Then Aston Villa 1951. A bigger stage, 3 seasons. No flash, just clean football played with clarity. But something still didn't fit. He wasn't there to follow orders. He was there to shape the game. In 1954, Tottenham saw what others missed. And for £30,000, they brought him to White Hart Lane. No parades, no headlines, just a man who would redefine what a captain could be. Tottenham weren't giants when he arrived. They had history, yes, but no philosophy, no rhythm, no spine. Blanchflower gave them one. By 1957, the armband was his, not for shouting, but for seeing. Pass by pass, match by match. Not with volume, with vision. He led Northern Ireland like he led Spurs with timing, clarity, and grace. And his brother, Jackie, the one who survived Munich. 1958. One brother guiding his country to the World Cup quarterfinal. The other pulled from the wreckage of Munich. 2 brothers, one heartbreak, one triumph. In the quarterfinal, they fell to France 4-0, but Blanchflower had taken them farther than anyone dreamed. He saw the game before it happened. He spoke less, but made every moment sharper. By the late 50s, the players followed his lead before they were told. Because his calm wasn't passive, it was calculated. Composed, complete. He didn't play for stats. He played for structure. He wanted movement to matter. Not just results, but rhythm. And when others chased the ball, Blanchflower shaped the space. Mackay had the fire. White had the magic. Greaves had the goals. But Blanchflower, he made the system sing. He didn't need 5 touches. He needed one delivered at exactly the right second to exactly the right place. It wasn't power, it was poetry written at full speed. And by the time the trophies came, Tottenham already had what they needed most: an identity. 1960-61. The season Tottenham changed football. League champions, FA Cup winners. The first team to do the double in the 20th century. And at the center, Danny Blanchflower. Captain, conductor, philosopher. He didn't shout, he shaped. He didn't fly into tackles, he floated into space. Every ball had a purpose, every pause had a meaning. Spurs didn't just win, they made the game beautiful. Wolves chased, Leicester cracked, United folded. Danny wasn't just the captain, he was the brain. Jimmy Greaves. Blanchflower made the pitch look wider. The tempo feel slower. The game feel elegant. 1961. The double. They beat Leicester 2-0 in the cup final. Bobby Smith scored, Terry Dyson sealed it. A year later, they did it again. 1962. Burnley beaten 3-1. And it was Danny, calm as ever, who slotted home a penalty at Wembley. When he lifted the trophy, he didn't roar. He just nodded like the work was done. Because to him, it wasn't just glory, it was proof. That football could be played with soul. That winning could still mean something. That class, not chaos, was the highest form of victory. He was 35 when the double was done. Most would fade. He didn't. He stayed, led, taught. The voice never got louder, but the influence only grew. He wasn't just the captain of Spurs, he was the conscience of the club. He captained Ireland too, 56 times in green, each one a lesson in quiet pride. In 1962, they won the FA Cup again. Blanchflower lifted it, second time in 2 years. In 1963, Tottenham became the first British side to win a European trophy, the Cup Winners' Cup. 5-1 over Atletico Madrid. Blanchflower captained that too. No British club had done it before. No Spurs side has done it since. He wasn't scoring, he wasn't sprinting, but he made the whole thing work. Even as the legs slowed, the brain moved quicker. He played 382 games, scored 21 goals, and quietly slipped away. He left Spurs in 1964, and for a final, fleeting act crossed continents to Durban City. No testimonial, no parade. Just a silence fitting for a man who let his play do the talking. He didn't chase legacy, he guided it. Even in his last match, he played with calm, with clarity, with the same belief that football, played right, could teach a man how to live. He wasn't just a footballer, he was a mind, a pen, a provocation. Blanchflower wrote for newspapers while he was still on the pitch. Not ghost-written fluff, but real columns with real fire. He spoke truth about tactics, called out directors, challenged the press. He didn't want to be liked, he wanted football to be better. While others played the game, he questioned it. He asked why defenders only defended, why midfielders stopped thinking, why captains roared but didn't lead. And after he retired, he kept writing, kept challenging, kept holding the mirror up. He once wrote, "The great fallacy is that the game is first and last about winning. It is nothing of the kind. The game is about glory." That wasn't just opinion, it was his creed, his compass, his call to every player who ever wore white. Blanchflower believed football was art, a game of space, thought, and courage. Not just who won, but how they played. In 1978, he returned to the dugout not at Spurs, but at Chelsea. But the game had changed. 5 wins in 32, a team in freefall. He stepped aside. The poetry couldn't patch a club already cracking. They hoped Blanchflower could restore it. But it was never the same. The players had changed. The game had shifted. The silence he once led with was no longer understood. He stepped away, watching the club spiral, misfiring without its old soul. Not bitter, not loud, just quiet again, like he'd always been. He left the touchline the same way he left the pitch, without asking for applause, without asking to stay. And then, the years grew quieter. In the 1980s, the world stopped hearing from Danny Blanchflower. Not because he'd changed, but because something inside him began to fade. Alzheimer's. The same man who read every inch of a pitch was slowly losing the map of his own mind. The game faded from memory, but memory never faded from the game. He lived out his final years in care, Belfast to London, stadiums to silence. He died on December 9th, 1993, aged 67. No statue, no headline, just a legacy waiting to be remembered by those who still knew how to watch. Danny Blanchflower never chased fame. He never raised his voice, never sold his soul to stay in sight. But the men who knew football, they still whisper his name. Not just for the double, not just for the Cup Winners' Cup, not even for the passes he made that no one else could see, but for the standard, the way he captained without chaos, the way he thought in full sentences when others only saw noise. He played like a writer, he spoke like a strategist. He led like a man who knew football wasn't just a game, it was a reflection of who you are. He taught Tottenham how to play with soul, and that soul still lingers in every chant, every fan memory, every clip of white shirts flowing like poetry across the pitch. No statue ever rose, no film ever told his full story. But every time someone says, "Play the Spurs way," they're speaking Danny's name without knowing it. Because class leaves no fingerprints, just echoes, and echoes never die. Subscribe if you still believe the game should honor the minds that shaped it, not just the mouths that shouted loudest.